So, hello everyone. Can you hear me well? Good?
Yes.
Cool. So we're gonna start, and yeah, I see some people uh, didn't join, but I'm recording our today's webinar, so they will be able to see to watch it in recording. So, very uh, pleased to be here. Thank you for joining for today's webinar called Mindfulness and Stress. uh, and it will take some hour, maybe more a little bit, depends on how it's gonna go and how it's gonna your involvement be here. So I usually don't do the lectures because I like the interaction. The workshop itself means that we can interact and share experience and make connections through the practice, through some kind of intention and the process. So today, what we're gonna explore nature of stress, the nature and approach of mindfulness itself, and I'm gonna introduce some, I'm gonna share some knowledge about what mindfulness is and how it, what is this, how it can be useful and helpful, um, and what is actually stress. So this is a very actual topic nowadays, especially knowing that we have a lot of stress on a daily basis. But before starting, I want to introduce myself. So my name is Jazz, shortly, Jaswan Abishev. I'm from Kazakhstan originally. Now I'm living in Spain. I lived in many countries, but now I live in Spain near Academy Sol Terreno, Mindful Academy Sol Terreno, where I teach mindfulness. I teach the trainers of MBSR trainers, and I'm a mindfulness supervisor as well. So I also teach mindfulness in the university, which is very interesting because it's something new as a elective discipline in the university for in academical way. It's very interesting to deliver it. So it's very interesting to see how people actually when they're starting to know what mindfulness is, how it can be very helpful and supportive nowadays. They it's very interesting to see how what is their reaction, especially people newbies who didn't know about mindfulness at all, and now they open eyes and see that it's very valuable, that it's very necessary in our daily life, workplace, anywhere actually. So how I became a mindfulness trainer, it's a long story, but you can see some facts about me here. I dedicated myself to explore and do research on introspective technologies, I call them like this. So mindfulness is one of the approaches. I did some research on traditional practices, meditations, spiritual practices. But later on, yeah, I did some expeditions around the world, especially in Asia, did some retreats in Myanmar, in Japan, in Korea, in China, and that was very amazing experience for me. It was very life-changing experience, especially in my personal life. So I started to see uh, benefits of meditations, but we have to understand that meditations are different. So later on, after doing research on traditions, I came to mindfulness as an approach that is evidence-based and science-based. So I started to learn, I started my journey, the teaching pathway. I became an MBSR teacher. I started to teach MBSR. Then later on, I started to train the trainers. So this is my main area of my profession. At the same time, I do some, different. I design courses, mindfulness courses, but basically it's all about, MBSR and the foundation of all this approach. So we're going to discuss, and I'm going to share what mindfulness is today and what is the main essence of it and how we can practice it. So I invite you now to do some short practice. Because mindfulness, first of all, is the practice. It's not only theory. So uh, let's start from short. Let's start just finding a comfortable position for yourself to have a 10-minute mindfulness meditation. And before we start, we always set intention for the practice. And the intention of this practice, and this is actually invitation, mindfulness is all about invitation. It's not a directive something. So it's all about your choice, whether you want to jump in and do some experimentation while you are meditating, or you just follow instructions. So it's all about your act of will and your mindful choice, mindful response. And I invite you to really be engaged into this practice, and let's set an intention. Intention is just to wake up to our habitual automatic pilot that we used to use during the day, because our habitual patterns are in control. So now the invitation is just to wake up and shift from doing mode to the being mode. And if it's comfortable, you can close the eyes and just feel your body. Just letting go all your thoughts about future or the past or the present. Just letting go all your thoughts. And invitation is just to opening to the actual experience in the body. So what is my experience right now in the body? Opening up to any physical sensations that are present. And we don't have to do anything with these sensations. Just starting to notice and acknowledge. So maybe noticing sensations of a touch with a surface, the contact with the surface you are sitting on. And sensations of a touch of your clothes. And bringing an open and curious mind. We don't have to analyze or, think about the sensations, just noticing. Maybe letting go all your tension if you have some extra tension. And when you're ready, we can shift attention to the sensations of the breath in the body. So where do I feel the breath in the body most vividly? Gently moving attention to the spots in the body. For example, the stomach area, chest, or nostrils, under the nose. So choosing this spot and allowing attention to just rest. in this spot. Noticing how breath is moving in the body. Breathing in and breathing out. And softening our resistance, allowing body to breathe itself. We don't have to control or do something to breathe. Body knows, allowing our body to breathe itself. And when you notice it, mind starts to wander or attention drifts away, it's totally normal. That's what mind do all the time. Is recognizing these moments of distraction without judging, gently, kindly, bringing back attention to the breath in the body. Sometimes we can recognize thoughts that emerges. It's also normal, we don't have to follow them, but just recognizing and acknowledging them is totally fine, that they're coming, and allowing them to come and go. So with the next breathe in and breathe out, if you're ready, we can start to expand our awareness to the whole body sitting here. So how do I feel now? Maybe some sensations, maybe some emotions, feelings. Allowing experience that now present to be exactly as it is. We don't have to change or do something with this. Giving space. And bringing some kindness towards any experience that we have now. It's there, just acknowledging, accepting. Not judging, but just kindly being aware. So when you're ready, taking a deep breath in, slowly, gently breathing out, feeling the ground beneath, contact with the surface we're sitting on, grounding ourselves. No rush, slowly starting to end, and finish this short practice. So how do you feel now after the practice? Just recognizing any experience. So now this meditation is complete. I hope you had opportunity to tune in and drop in and do some connection with oneself. And if you want to share something about how do you feel in the chat, you can write down. If you don't want to, it's totally fine. And let's continue with our today's topic. I really wanted to share what's happening right now in the world, and I think you're aware that nowadays we have a lot of factors that, especially this uncertainty, that as a main factor, what I observe is that trigger stress. And stress is something that we had always in our lives, but especially nowadays we have all this, the wars, the polarization, the deglobalization, and stuff like that. And climate change and so on. So we have all that as factors that really create stress. And we, what I observe, people doesn't really care about stress, their own stress. And this is I think, the main mistake of, if we talk about the well-being and healthcare, the mental health in general. Well, we have to, explore, I think, about the nature of stress, our own stress. So simply saying the stress is anything that real or imagined that actually knocks us out of a state of balance. So we cannot say that we live always in this harmony and in a balance. We have all the time, every day challenges, but we have to, explore what stress is and what kind of stress actually exists, because stress can be different. When we start and explore the stress itself, we can find different definitions of that. This is a very simple one. And also, stress is something that we can feel, we can experience, we can notice and recognize. It's very subjective. We cannot avoid it, and of course, it's not always bad. And but the chronic stress can, bring and be a reason of our consequences in terms of our health. So it has a negative impact on health if we don't care about our own stress. So that's why we're exploring our stress on a daily basis, and we can explore it on the different levels. But we have to also be aware that stress can be different. For example, traumatic stress is very something very painful and something very big. It's a very severe and painful event that may involve a real threat of death, serious physical injury, or sexual violence. It can be the result of a personal experience or witnessing such an event. So traumatic stress nowadays, what I see is more and more often happens, especially with this, reality around us. So war zone, immigration, and the news that bring us something very hopeless, and it can trigger a trauma. It's not about only trauma or traumatic events that are happening now. We always had this trauma, but in some way, this trauma is there. I mean, it can be in a different modes. We cannot see it, but especially nowadays, trauma emerges very often, and we have to also consider that and take care of this trauma. And as symptoms of trauma, we can see that we cannot treat it as a trauma sometimes. For example, some people cannot sleep very well. They have nightmares, flashbacks, Sometimes their emotional state of being is not under control, and a lot of anger, depression, aggression, feelings of shame and guilt. Sometimes it's on the physical level. Uh, these are symptoms, some really, really small symptoms, because if we start to explore symptoms of trauma, we can find a big, big list of physical indicators, emotional indicators, behavioral, cognitive, and so on. So it takes some time to learn how to read these symptoms about trauma. But this workshop and webinar is not about trauma, but I just wanted to bring this real fact that trauma is now very often emerges in people's experience when we talk about the mental health and in general health itself. So we cannot avoid it. We cannot just close the eyes and say, no, I'm totally fine, I don't have trauma, and so on. Every person has trauma. We have to remember that something that happened, like traumatic event that happened in the past during the childhood or recently, it doesn't matter, it's there. Like David Treleaven, the founder of the approach called trauma sensitive mindfulness, said that trauma is always in the room. We want it or not, it doesn't matter, it's there. So we are learning how to read, and we don't have to avoid that. More than that, we can turn towards this trauma and start to take care of it in order to heal ourselves. So when the traumatic event happens, reactions to this traumatic events or any stress that happens to us, and our natural reactions and automatic reactions make, it's normal reaction to any stress factor. As we said, that stress is something that real or imagined. So for example, there are stress factors that real. For example, you're just walking on your street near the house, and you see suddenly barking big dog comes, and you feel this reaction in your body, and this reaction is totally normal, and its function is to survive. It mobilizes your body and turns this three modes that we know, like it's fight, flight, and freeze. This is a stress reaction. Stress factor here is a dog, and stress reaction is the reaction of your body. So what we want to do is just to fight, run away, or sometimes there's a freeze reaction, so we cannot move. And this is a natural reaction in our nervous system that has been developed and through the evolution, because the main function of this reaction is to survive. It's totally normal. But sometimes this reaction it turns on when it's not necessary. When, for example, you have your meeting at workplace, you have a public speaking, and this reaction takes over, and you cannot do anything, you cannot control it, and all your plan, all your adequate state of being disappears. So fight, flight, and freeze mode takes over and controls you. So sometimes it's not necessary. Sometimes we don't need this reaction in a daily life, right? So how can we deal with this? How can we control that? So here comes mindfulness, and we're going to talk about it later. But also I want to share about our natural reaction of resistance. It's automatic reaction to any challenges, to any stress factors, and the stress factors causes pain. It can be emotional, it can be physical pain, but to this pain, the natural automatic reaction that we cannot control, that just turns on, it's resistance. And this resistance actually can create a secondary experience. So primary experience here is a pain, and the secondary experience comes as an experience because we tend to resist to this pain. That's why we have a secondary experience, and then there's a third wave and a fourth wave. So we can stop this waves actually if we just face this pain through skills that we train, through mindfulness, through specific relationship towards this pain, because the natural reaction is to run away or fight or do anything to, this pain could go away. This is a cause, one of the causes of our suffering actually. And it's there. I mean, everyone resists to the pain. And the common and very often reactions that we can notice during this painful situation or stressful situation and this difficult experience, the resistance itself through the rumination and avoidance takes control actually. So avoidance, this is a main pattern that we always have, and this pattern causes a lot of consequences, which is not good. I mean, for in general, in the long term, in terms of our mental health, and actually reducing suffering. And rumination, I think you know this word, right? So rumination is, all the time repetitive thoughts, that negative thoughts, automatical thoughts that takes over, and we tend to follow these thoughts, and this also causes a lot of secondary experience in the body, on an emotional level, and on the physical level. I also wanted to say that this what naturally happens in our nervous system, in our physical body, and in our brain, but also there is a hope that we can start to recognize these situations. But it takes some time to get a skill to train our brain to notice these situations and make a mindful response, and actually recognize where I am now, how do I feel now. So in this short practice in the beginning, I invited you to just notice, how am I now? And maybe you notice that sometimes there are some automatical distractions, automatical mind wandering happens. This is what our brain learned itself to wander all the time. But we can we can train our brain to focus, to concentrate, and actually control our attention, and bring it back, or navigate, or direct this attention to any object that we want to choose. So when we face difficult situation, we can learn to notice how our organism, how our body are reacting to this situation, and what is really happening on the physical, emotional, and cognitive levels. And actually, if we start to evaluate ourselves, we can feel that the stress now takes over, and it knocks us out from this optimal zone, from this balance. And sometimes we can feel it on the physical level, that there is a hyper arousal state of being, or hypo-arousal. So symptoms can be different. Hyper-arousal is when your metabolism starts, like 2 or 3 times faster. So you feel a lot of energy, you feel a lot of emotions and tension in the body. So hyper-arousal, your nervous system is like running too fast. And hypo-arousal is totally opposite. It's gonna, brake pedal in the car. Hyper-arousal is acceleration pedal, as an analog, right? And hypo-arousal is something that when you feel that you're stuck, it's kind of freeze reaction. You are kind of out of your body. You don't feel this connection, and you cannot move. There's apathy, there's a lack of energy, and so on. So these two edges that we can feel, and we can read it through different symptoms. And we are actually realizing that we are not in the optimal zone. This curve here, the blue line, is just a level of your energy during the day, for example. And this optimal zone, we call it window of tolerance. This is the best place to be. So when we feel that we are not there, we can notice And this noticing is a skill, is the mindfulness skill. The mindfulness itself trains the skill to notice, where am I now in my window of tolerance? Because this information is very, very important. We realize that we are out of window, then there is actually, thought comes to mind and says, you have to come back to this optimal zone. You have to come back to this window of tolerance in order to take care of yourself, right? So you're noticing that you're in hyperarousal. So symptoms can be on the emotional and physical and cognitive levels. And it's something that you cannot control, actually. It takes control, just happens automatically. But after some time of practices, when you practice mindfulness, you learn how to notice these moments when you are out of window of tolerance or on the edge. And then you make a decision. You make a mindful choice to take care of yourself by using specific tools or practices just to come back to the window of tolerance. Because if we don't care, we don't care about our stressful situations, which are actually factors and causes these moments that kicks us out from the window of tolerance. We don't know what's happening actually, and we can live our lives in this automatical habitual way of living. Then our health and our mental health, actually we don't care about it. We don't care, and we don't know when this moment happens, when stress causes very, very bad disorder and disease. If we talk about the traumatic stress or distress, these are critical moments when it causes not only just moment stress in the moment, it causes very big disease or sickness, such as cancer, such as diabetes, and many other disorders. We know a lot of them. So that's why in early stages, if we learn ourselves, if we train ourselves to notice the stressful situations that are happening with us, we can take care of them in the moment, and we will take care, and we will not cause the disease in the end. So what also happens on a mental level, on the level of our relationship towards the stressful situations, is, I think, very well known. Sometimes one of these qualities or anti-qualities that we tend to experience during the stressful situations are very known. So usually our relationship towards the stressful situation, as a resistance, as a distrust, or judging, or striving to fix anything, or we are impatient. Sometimes it comes to the moment that we do self-harm and so on. So this, what we learn to recognize during the stressful situations, during the challenges, during actually daily life actual challenges. We don't have to wait something big stressful situation. Just start to notice what are you doing with on a daily basis with small challenges, small stressful situations, and then you will see and recognize that it's there. I mean, this is expert's mind, this distrust, this judging, and a lot of different things on the level of relationship. And we also have to consider that this is a part of our relationship toward the stressful situation. There is a factor, there is a reaction, and there is our relationship, habitual relationship. All this experience needs to be, aware. That's why we learn how to recognize the experience itself, what's happening with ourselves on the level of body, emotions, and thoughts. And at the same time, the key skill that we are learning with mindfulness is to be aware of our relationship towards this experience that we experience in the moment. And this also takes some time to learn how to be aware of this. So it's not only being aware of how am I right now, but also how do I relate to this experience. So I already said that stress can bring to critical moments, like such as distress or PTSD, especially if we talk about the traumatic stress. When the event happens to the person and the person survives from this trauma, after this event, people tend to experience the same experience during that this person experienced during the traumatic event. We call it post-traumatic stress. So there are symptoms are there on the emotional and physical and cognitive levels, but there is no threat actually. But the post-traumatic stress is something that stays there, and if we don't care about this post-traumatic stress, if we don't heal and recovery from this post-traumatic stress, it can develop to the post-traumatic stress disorder. Well, by statistics, only 20% of people get this PTSD, but nowadays I can see that a lot of people are suffering from PTSD, especially people who are who trauma survivors actually, and they especially people who don't care about the symptoms, and they actually don't heal this post-traumatic stress. It can lead to the post-traumatic stress disorder, and this is a sad situation actually. That's why we are learning with mindfulness to take care of our stress in the early stages. We don't have to wait for PTSD to take care of it. So actually this question is for you. You can reflect on this. Maybe write down in the chat if it's comfortable for you. I'm very curious to hear, how do you deal with stress on a daily basis? How do you take care of your mental health? And especially when you face the stressful situations, what do you do actually to take care of yourself? So I'm really curious to hear what do you do? You can write down in the chat, or maybe if you want to say something, you can unmute yourself and say something about your stress. How do you deal with this? It's possible now to do some interaction now, if it's okay for you. Please, anyone? Because I'm curious, what are the strategies or coping mechanisms do you use during the stress? And are these strategies are do they have consequences? I mean, are they healthy or not? Because we can use different kind of coping mechanisms. Some of them are based on resistance mostly, but some of them, they are based on really different approach, such as mindfulness. I don't know, it's about accepting, turning towards the stress, to process all these emotions, to go to psychotherapist, I don't know, to feel the stress in the body or not, or distract yourself. Usually people are distracting themselves from stressful situations, avoiding, with different kind of activity, like, okay, I'm gonna watch Netflix, or I'm gonna smoke, I'm gonna drink alcohol, I don't know, something that based on distraction, avoidance. So what are your coping mechanisms? It's not about answers for me, but it's about reflection for yourself. What do you usually use? What kind of activity do you do during the stressful situation? If you want to share, please. Anybody?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
can say something.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think I don't have like a proper approach. So that's why it took me some time to like think about it. But when you just mentioned some examples, I think avoidance is something I try to do. So like when I see there's a stressful situation, and for me it mostly occurs at work. I really like my job, but sometimes there is like something that like eats up my mind. And
Mhm.
I think like I definitely try to do something not to think about it. Um, and what I try to do like proactively is like doing things like, I don't know, mindfulness training, like meditating regularly, which does not
Okay.
always work out that well. Because especially like when the stressful situation is there, it's something difficult to do. What I figured out really helps me quite a lot is doing sport, because doing sport,
Yeah.
I really can. I mean, it might be an avoidance mechanism, but it really helps me to zoom out and realize, okay, I've been focusing so much on that little problem, but in the end, it might be not as important, because when I'm in my sport class, then like in suddenly all of a sudden, like in the sport class, everything I do there is important. I focus on that, and then I'm like kind of released also in a sense.
Okay. Okay. So sports very helps you to deal with stress, right? Yeah, that's what you just said is very interesting because and it's I'm curious to explore, is this really avoidance or not? Because it can be different ways. It depends on our intention, intention. So if I'm using sport as a avoidance mechanism, like avoidance strategy, it's one thing. Okay, it's totally normal. We also learn to acknowledge that and accept that. But at the same time, we can from the opposite side. So I do sport because I want to accept my stress. I want to explore my stress. It's there. How do I feel when I do sport? How it helps me? How it nurtures me? When and my intention is to face it, turn towards the stress. It's different. That's why now we're going to explore more about what mindfulness is and the key elements of the mindfulness. But thank you for sharing. Sports, yeah. What else? Anybody else who want to share? Thanks for sharing it,
Yes, I can share.
Maya.
Uh, if I am mindful in this situation, in the stressful situation, um, what I helps for me to bring my attention into my body and do a little bit movement, like a small movement meditation, and through the movement I can realize, okay, where is the stress in my body, and I can be with it and breathing with these feelings. And if I am not mindful, um, my first reaction is avoidance. And
Mm-hmm.
usually I do something in the house. For example, if I am at home, what can help to put my attention into the other things. But
Mm-hmm.
I know this avoidance.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It looks like everyone here have experience of practicing mindfulness. That's good to hear. I know, and this is very interesting that you are aware. We are aware actually sometimes about that there is a reaction that turns on automatically that based on avoidance. But here is the moment that we can choose, right? We can choose. And as you said, Maya, and Felix says that it's something physical activity that when body moves, it's very helpful to release, this tension and stress. At the same time, we can do it in a way of avoidance or in a way of, taking care of ourselves, mindful way to just process the stress in the body. Mindful movements are very, very, useful and very workable to process the stress. And these moments when we do on automatical level that based on avoidance, we can distract our attention and do something usually. So here comes the mindfulness itself. So how can we take care of our stress more wisely? How can we deal with stress more wisely? So you already know about the mindfulness. I want to just, emphasize and again to talk about it and give a definition what mindfulness is. So mindfulness is not something new. It exists many, many thousands of years. And actually, it exists in any person, even they don't know what mindfulness is. It's about being aware, being present in the moment intentionally. So this is intention first comes. So I have this intention to be present and direct my attention to this present moment experience in the moment on a physical, emotional, cognitive levels. And bringing this specific attitude without judging, just accepting, without resisting, without striving to fix it, and kindly. So these three key elements of what mindfulness as an approach is. So it's practice intentional, attentional, and attitudinal. So we in mindfulness explore these three elements all the time, and we're not exploring on a theoretical level only. We practice it. That's why mindfulness first starts from practice. And we train this intention, we train this attention, and we cultivate specific attitudinals. And for us, this triangle of awareness is a kind of dots of that we can lean on: sensations, emotions, thoughts, sensations, emotions, thoughts, and all this creates our behavior in the moment. So it's also the fourth element could be our behavior, behaving attitude in the moment. But mostly we focus and we start explore our physical sensations, emotions, and thoughts. As you practiced in the beginning, we navigated our attention to these physical sensations in the body, the sensations of the breath, sensations in the body on a physical level, and also on the physical level we explore emotions in the body as well. And thoughts are actually also in the body. We tend to think that it's somewhere in the head, but not. Thoughts are also in the body. So we explore and we train this meta observe point. We train ourselves to be from this meta perspective and observe kind of from aside ourselves. What do we feel? What do we feel in the body on the level of emotions? And what do we think on the level of thoughts? And this is what where we start from. We start to make connections with our body, with our sensations, emotions, and thoughts. Also, the third element is very, very important. One of the attitudinal qualities that we cultivate is acceptance. So it's opposite to resistance. As we just said, that avoidance as a part of resistance is there in our lives, right? So we resist too much to this experience in the moment, to ourselves, to the reality around us. But we learn by bringing some balance. We cultivate acceptance as a key attitudinal quality in mindfulness, because as research says, acceptance precedes change. If we want to change ourselves, we don't have to force, we don't have to resist, we don't have to fight to change ourselves. Opposite, we just let it go. We let go our resistance. We accept our selves as we are, and then change happens. This is a paradox of mindfulness. And acceptance starts from this aversion, actually. When we recognizing our aversion, but we are not allowing this aversion to take over. We bring curiosity, being tolerant to this aversion, to this any experience that we tend to resist. Then we learn to allow this experience to be exactly as it is, and then we learn just to provide space to any experience. So this is open awareness, means that we just give space to any experience, pleasant, unpleasant, neutral, doesn't matter. So this how this process of acceptance can happen in a way that it's not a rule, but these are things that key elements that, you know, if we bring this, we know that there is acceptance. Acceptance is not something that happens right away. It's the process, and we learn to how to process difficult, especially difficult and stressful situations and experience that happens during stressful situations. Acceptance is something that we can train. It's an attitude, it's a skill. So it's also part of the mindfulness, because in mindfulness we cultivate not only acceptance, but 7 more attitudinal qualities. You may know them, but before that I want to just repeat again. So in terms of stressful and hard difficult situations and difficult experience, we can learn by training our awareness, training our attention, to recognize, to notice when we are in stressful situations in early stages, by just recognizing some symptoms on a physical level, on emotional level, on cognitive level, and behavioral. So this is triangle of awareness plus behavioral. So, for example, when you can ask yourself, what you usually feel in the body on a physical, emotional, cognitive level when you face stress. Just go back to your past situation when you faced recently some stressful situation, and just start to explore, how did you feel at that moment? Where did you feel in the body this stress? Some people feel tension. Some people feel arousal in the body. Some people feel that their heart rate goes up, or and tension comes. And on emotional level, some people cry, some people feel anger, some people feel anxiety or fear. On the cognitive level, it's something like we start to ruminate. For example, what's going on? Why it happens to me? Why? What if I would do this or wouldn't do this? So this repetitive ruminational thoughts on a cognitive level automatically pops up in our head, and it tend to be, this cognitive level also needs to be explored during the stressful situations, and we can recognize, okay, these are symptoms of that I'm in stress now. And behavioral, some people smoke, some people walk in the room very fast. I don't know, this is my pattern. If I feel stressful situation, I start to walk around very fast. Some people, I don't know, start do some exercises, or I don't know. It depends on because if you remember, stress is very subjective. So we all have our own patterns that needs to be explored. So this 4 indicators that we can recognize during the stressful situations and learn to be aware and realize that we are in stress. And in early stages, we can learn how to come out from stress, go back to the optimal zone, go back to the window of tolerance by using some practices. So mindfulness is all about, very simply, it's about being aware of what is happening and not doing with this anything. And sometimes our patterns takes over, and we tend to go to rumination, to do something, to resist, and so on. That's why we need to remember this intention. Intention just to be with present and bring kindness and turn towards difficulty, and come back all the time when we go away from ourselves, from the present moment, somewhere to the past, to the future, somewhere to distract ourselves. Just intention is to come back here and now, turn towards to any experience that right now is happening, with a kind attitude, with acceptance, with non-judging attitude, with non-striving to fix it. And we are being aware by recognizing all this triangle awareness and our actions and our emotions, thoughts, and sensations. Choiceless awareness here is just we're learning to be equanimous. This word equanimity, which means that we are non-reactive, we're not doing anything, we're not choosing, we're just being aware with our present moment experience right now. And here, it looks simple in theory, of course. On practical level, it takes some time to learn how to do it. But here lays very deeply wisdom. That's why mindfulness is not something that was invented like 50 years ago. No, it was there many thousands of years. That's why this wisdom can be practiced in a secular way. So here also I wanted to share this 8 attitudinal qualities that we develop. So besides acceptance and non-judging attitude, we start from beginner's mind, actually. So this is a mind that it's like for the first time we bring this fresh eye view, so this beginner's mind, with this openness, this curiosity, this interest. Not judging, we all understand that it's analyzing, criticizing, dividing to the bad or good, this all dual mind that we call judging attitude. So we cultivate non-judging attitude. So we learn not judging, just accepting, and also letting go. It's very important because we tend to cling to to our patterns, to our behavior, to our thoughts, to our some very, very deep rooted mindsets. So we learn to let go all of that in order to open up to something new. Trusting the body, trusting the experience, trusting the process. Patience. Impatience is always there, especially for people who cannot just sit 3 minutes and do nothing. We tend to do something all the time. We have to do something. If we sit like 5 minutes, oh my God, I waste my time. I have to do something. It's not effective. It's not productive. No, just we're learning to let that all go. And from doing more, learning how to be in the moment and do nothing, actually. This is a very, very hard to do for some people. Do nothing, just be. Patiently observe what's happening. Non-striving. Striving is something that we tend to cultivate as a, criteria of success, right? So strive for your goal, strive for your, happiness or whatever. It's here's opposite. We learn how not to strive and just be present and accept whatever we have right now. And we have this amazing moment here and now, full of everything. It's enough actually in the moment. If we just sit and observe and realize that it is enough. No, I have to strive for something that I don't have. That's why we have this tendency to strive to fix ourselves, strive to change ourselves. But change is not going to happen if we strive to change ourselves, because it's based on resistance. It's based on fighting with ourselves. That's why we let go striving and cultivate non-striving by bringing just, compassionate, empathetic joy, kindness towards ourselves. And it's also skill. All these attitudinal qualities are, skills. We can, build them. We can cultivate and we can build them. And mindfulness is the key. Mindfulness has this as a third element, like key element: intention, attention, and attitude. So it's not only about training our attention to navigate and direct. It's also bringing some specific relationship, and it's very, very important. So I'm gonna skip this one. I want to share a little bit about here. So you already know, because I don't know you, Felix, but I know that Maya and Alexandra, they are already mindfulness trainers. Good to see you here. And they know what is MBSR. Maybe you heard also, Felix, about the mindfulness-based stress reduction course. It's a golden standard, world-renowned, evidence-based program in the mindfulness world. And we teach this program, as well as Maya and Alexandra. So, but I wanted to share a little bit more about and something new about mindfulness-based stress reduction. I was the one who had experience of immigrating and being a refugee from the war. And last 2 years, I faced a different kind of, and I taught actually MBSR courses and mindfulness courses for people who are trauma survivors. So that's why there was a big need to learn more about the trauma, and in a way that mindfulness can be trauma sensitive. So there's an approach called trauma sensitive mindfulness. It was designed by David Treleaven. It's an approach that is very, very gentle. So, and it focuses also, the main essence of the approach, mindfulness, is there, but my trauma-sensitive mindfulness is more careful, more sensitive to trauma, that helps people to gently take care of their trauma if it emerges during the practices. So trauma sensitivity, it means that we care about this. We know that trauma is there. We learn how to, we effectively can take care of it if the symptoms emerges of trauma, and we avoid re-traumatization. So this is a trauma-sensitive mindfulness. And also there is a trauma recovery course that I took from Amit Bernstein, professor from Haifa University. He designed the course for refugees, actually, and he called it MBTR, which is a mindfulness-based trauma recovery course. It's also mindfulness. It's all based on MBSR, actually, the golden standard. But there are some modifications and knowledge, such as window of tolerance that I shared with you briefly today, and also some modifications in the practices. So it's very gentle, very safe mindfulness. So I created this MBTSR course, and it's a little bit different from the MBSR course, and it's actually for everyone. It's also 8-week. I do it 9-week program. It's for everyone, who, not only for those who just face the trauma. It's for everyone, actually, who have stress, who have some mental issues, mental health issues, who has sleep issues, and so on and so on and so on. So everyone has it. So it's actually for everyone. Structure also is a little bit different. So we talk about not only the basic foundation of MBSR course, which is very full and very enough and very good and very effective, but there is something else more. And we discuss also about the safety. We learn how to, practice safely. That's why first session we dedicate to the safety. So mindfulness can be very safe. And also about perceiving the difficulties and challenges. It's also about movement awareness and mindful movements and so on, because mindful movements are very effective for trauma survivors. It really heals if you do it properly. We also explore stress and traumatic stress and so on, and different kind of stress, understanding and managing reactions, and deepening how to respond to the stress. Of course, it's also about communication, stressful interactions. On week 7, we dive into a practice. So we did full day. We just practice, silent retreat. Self-compassion, of course, it's a main heart of the self-care. So we come to the moment in the end of the course, and we explore deeply on a practical level what compassion is, how we can take care of ourselves, really take care of ourselves. And compassion is something not about avoidance. It's about real care about our pain, about our suffering. So this is a structure of MBTSR course. So it's mainly is a MBSR course, but there are some modifications. And why I'm sharing it with you, because it starts very soon. So I invite you, and I know that Maya is already there in the group. So if you want to join, we start on May 7th. Oh, May 11th. It's Saturdays. So how it's gonna work? We meet every Saturday for 2 or 2.5 hours, and we do the session together in a group. We explore these topics. We practice. We explore the experience that was in the practice. Then we learn some more information, new practices, and then I give recommendations for the home practice. And during the week, participants are practicing by their own, spending 30-40 minutes a day, They have a chat, they can interact, ask, share their experience in the chat. And then we meet again on Saturday. We explore what happened during the week, some insights, some issues, some questions, and so on and so on and so on. So this is very interactive exploration on experiential level. So this is what mindfulness-based stress reduction and trauma-sensitive recovery course is. So I'm inviting you all who want to join. So now here we have a space for some questions if you have, or some feedback. Please unmute yourself and just share if you want.
Yeah, can I ask you, you mentioned movement.
Yes.
Can you elaborate a bit more? So is it kind of special movement or just the same as
MBSR course?
yeah,
it's the mindful movements in the course, as we know in MBSR course, it's just the usual formal practice, like other practices, formal practices like body scan, body and breath, and turning towards. So this is actually a formal practice, and we spend time. Third week we start to bring awareness to our bodies while we're moving. So mindful movement can be in a formal way, can be different practices, like with elements of yoga, with elements of tai chi, with elements of any other exercises, physical exercises. So but trauma sensitive mindful movement is about very gentle, again, because we all have our limits of our physical bodies, and when we face these limits and borders, we are exploring them in a trauma sensitive way. We are learning how to face, how to feel, and how to interact with these borders, because any limit that we face during some movement can be unpleasant. So we are bringing this trauma sensitivity by bringing some more kind attitude, by exploring. There is a pendulate practices within the mindful movement. Pendulate practice is from trauma-sensitive mindfulness practices. What is pendulate, right? So it's like moving from unpleasant to the anchor, safe space. From safe space to the unpleasant. From unpleasant to safe space. So this pendulate technique is also there. That's why when we do mindful movements, we all the time face this unpleasant with the limits, and we do this practice of pendulation, going back to the safe space and then go back to the unpleasant. So this is actually a difference from regular mindful movement in MBSR. It's more trauma sensitive, and that's why in movements I give more elements from in yoga, where we actually fix some position to face this borders and limits, to explore them in a trauma sensitive way. Then we come out we do movement, and then we pause and fix a position, for example, and just explore, and then go back again to the movement. So this is also more there in a trauma sensitive mindful movement. Anything else to share or ask, comment? Maybe some feedback on what you heard today. Was it interesting, new, curious, or not?
I actually liked it quite a lot. It was super interesting. I think I still need some time to think about it. I wrote down some notes, but it always needs some time to settle in and to reflect on it. But in general, thank you very much. It was super interesting to get to know some of the patterns, I'd say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thanks, Felix. Yeah, it needs some time to settle down, to allow to settle down, and thanks.
I just want to say thank you, because it was very rich in the knowledge, and it was very, very good feeling to sit again on the other side, with beginner's mind. So I could practice the beginner's mind. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Maya. Thank you. There will be more during the course, of course.
Yes.
All right, then. Thank you very much for your time, for your presence. I hope it was useful for you. I felt in the beginning a little bit destructive because I feel sick, and it was like gathering myself as well. So now and then later on, I just found this wave, and thank you for bringing your awareness, because it's very supportive all the time. Thank you very much. You have all this information in the I was recording it, so if you want to watch it again, I can send you a link if you want, and it's very open, public. You can share it as well if you want. So if you are interested, please contact me. Upcoming course will start on May 11. If not, no problem. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing your experience. Have a wonderful day today and a weekend. Hope to see you soon.
Thank you very much. Have a nice day. Bye bye.
Yeah,
Bye
thank you.
bye.
Bye.
Thank you.